Welcome to another episode of African Mindset series. Today, I just wanted to share something that I've just read with you and get your thoughts on it. I just read that Macky Sall, for those who don't know Macky Sall, he's the president of Senegal and the acting chair or the acting head of the African Union. So he's flown to Russia in his capacity as the head of the African Union to basically beg Putin to consider Africa and the economic consequences of the war on Africa, and precisely basically to beg for grain, if you like, because for those who don't know, Ukraine and Russia produce most of the world's wheat, and with the war, I think there's been restrictions in the flow of wheat to the rest of the world, including Africa. Now, as an African, when I read it, my first thought was, how can the president or the head of the African Union go to Russia without any sense of embarrassment and ask and beg for wheat when he sits in a continent that has 60%, approximately 60% of the world's fertile land, the world's arable land, ripe for agriculture? Why should we, in Africa, where literally you eat a mango, you throw it away, it becomes a tree, and the land is so fertile in Africa that it baffles me that we've reduced ourselves to beggars of food. There's something wrong with this picture. And not only are we begging for food, we are actually begging for food from countries that do not have the same favorable climate as Africa has, i.e. sunshine, that do not have half of the land that Africa has, half of the fertile land that we have. I mean, most of Russia is covered in snow. It's uninhabitable anyway. And yet, with the land that they've got, they manage to produce, and Ukraine as well, to produce most of the world's wheat. You would have thought, or I was hoping, that this current war in Ukraine will prompt African leaders to come up with a solution for Africa and cut our dependency on wheat, on even things like sunflower oil, which is mostly, produced again in Ukraine. Sunflower is their national plant, I believe. We in Africa, we can produce wheat, but why even go as far as that? We've got cassava. Why don't we process cassava into flour that we use to make bread? What is wrong with that? Why must we follow the West? Why are we following the corporate agenda, which vilifies African, indigenous produce like cassava, like tropical oils, in favor of things we do not produce? And more importantly, where is the shame? Why have our leaders become professional beggars? If they are not begging the West, they are begging China. If they are not begging China, they are begging Russia. What is it with us? What is it with this colonized mindset that makes us think we can do nothing about it? Now, brothers and sisters, I'm urging you to use your little garden. If you've got a little garden, plant. Try and become self-sufficient. Forget about our politicians. Let's do our own thing. Let's become less dependent on imported foods. Because if we create self-sufficiency, we won't need to import. We won't need to go around the world begging for food. Food is essential. It's more essential rather than pursuing digitization of everything. Let's first of all focus on food production, making sure we are self-sufficient. Let's focus on, healthcare, making sure we produce our own medicine. Let's focus on our security. These are the important things. We need to get the basics right first. I am livid that this is yet another example of African leaders and a whole, head of the African Union representing Africa going to Russia with his cap in hand to beg for Russia to consider the economic impact of the war on Africa, to consider starving Africans. How long are we going to continue like this? How long are we going to act as beggars? How long are we going to allow the world to treat us as second-class citizens? Listen, let's stop with this fighting racism, fighting this, fighting that, until we respect ourselves. Until we come to a point where we say, enough is enough. We no longer want to be, dependent on anyone else. We no longer want to be looked down on. So let's sort ourselves first. There's no point going to demand respect from Russia or from the West or from China when we are going around begging. They don't respect us. I'm sure they look at our leaders and laugh. And rightly so. So, I just wanted to share that with you. You can let me know what you think about it. But it's ridiculous. We've got everything on that continent. And yet our leaders have been so accustomed to begging that they cannot think, even in a point of crisis. This is the time for Africa to shine, for African leaders to come together and say, the world depends on Russia and Ukraine for wheat. We need to stop this single country dependency. We need to provide options for Africa, for self-sufficiency first, and also to produce for the rest of the world. Why do we have visionless leaders? Why? But then again, the good one with visions, generally they don't last. This is why Africa must unite. And from the grassroots, let's not get discouraged. Let's get together. Let's do our bit. Let's do what we can do to, and then also raise our voices. Voice our displeasure at the way our leaders are behaving, and work towards getting Pan-African leaders who are also knowledgeable and who have a vision for Africa. Let's vote those people into power and into politics to represent us. And I'll say it again. The African Union, Macky Sall, and all these puppets who go around begging, they do not represent me. And they do not represent your average African. They are not my president. Anyway, that's what I wanted to share today. Thank you.